between those two things. That you place them so close that there is no separation. You don't know where one begins and where the other one ends. That's why you find that the system of wilayah, that Allah's authority is so closed in together, that the Prophet is there and Ahlul Bayt is there. But at the same time, when you come to the door of wilayah, there is a practical manifestation of wilayah. That when you look at many of these acts, such as Tawheed, you find there is a practical manifestation towards Tawheed. That conceptually Tawheed means one God. But when you look, you find this system is supposed to bring unity amongst it. That when you look, for example, you're reading prayers, they're supposed to be recited communally. That when you look, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een, that we worship you and we ask you for help. In the same way, you find that wilayah is supposed to bring those individuals so close to each other that are on the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt, that there is no separation within them. That's when you look, you find that we have the concept of tawalla. In Arabic and Persian communities, they say tawalli. But when you look at tawalla, you find that many people, they think that it just means to love Allah, the Prophet, the Ahlul Bayt. But no, there is one more dimension towards tawalla, which is forgotten within our communities. And that dimension is what? That dimension is that you love those who love Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. That when you look at somebody within the community, don't look at the differences, look at the fact that he has the love of Ali ibn Abi Talib within his heart. You know, when somebody passes away, you circle around their body, and what lines do you recite? You recite, Allahumma inna la na'lamu minhu illa khair. And if it's a female, you say, minha illa khair. That I know nothing from this person except good. Now the question comes up into the mind, that what if you know that person, that you saw that person sin, you saw him do wrong things within his life, are you still allowed to say it? Do you still have the haqq of saying this line? You know, from one level, you find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that if 40 people are circulating the body and they say this line, Allah will forgive that individual. Why? Because if the mu'mineen are willing to hide his sins, Allah is Sattarul Uyub, the hider of all defects. Would he not hide his sins? But at the second level, you find that Marhum Ayatullah Al-Khuyi, he was asked this question, that do you still recite this line? Ayatullah Al-Khuyi replied by saying that when you say, I know nothing except khair from that person, you are not testifying to his deeds, you are testifying to the fact that he has the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. That the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt is that khair, which if it is in somebody's life, after that point you don't have the right to look into the faults of that individual, because you begin to look at every single thing through the lens of wilayah. And that's the beauty of the school of Ahlul Bayt, that when you come to the door of Ahlul Bayt, you don't need to go astray, you don't need to go to any other doors. You know, they asked Amir al-Mu'mineen that, Ya Ali, who is more generous, you or Hatim al-Ta'i? You know, Hatim, he became a famous figure for his generosity amongst the Arabs. That the Arabs, when they wanted to show their generosity, they had an expression. They would say, Akramu min Hatim, that I am more generous than Hatim. Now they didn't mean it literally, but it was an expression. But right now they asked Ali ibn Abi Talib, Oh Ali, who is more generous, you or Hatim al-Ta'i? The Imam replied by saying that Hatim used to have a complex. That complex, it had 40 doors. Whenever somebody would come and ask at the first door, Hatim would give it to him. Then Hatim, he would go to the second door, he would cover his face so nobody recognized him, and he would give that same person at the second door. Then he would say, go to the third door, 4 doors, and he would go all the way 40 doors down. Now Ali ibn Abi Talib is asked, Ya Ali, who is more generous, you or Hatim? The Imam replied by saying, I am more generous than Hatim, because if they came towards my door, they would not have any need to go towards any other door. That this is that beauty, when you come towards the door of Ali ibn Abi Talib, you don't have to go towards any other door. And I know it is a weeknight, so I won't extend it too long, but you know, the topic is wilayah. You know, one day Imam al-Sadiq, salamullahi alayhi, Imam al-Sadiq and his companion Zurara would come towards the class of Imam al-Sadiq. Zurara would come with his father. He says to Imam al-Sadiq, "Oh Imam, it's been 40 years, all you teach us is about the rules of Hajj. How long are you going to teach us about the rules of Hajj?" The Imam replied by saying, "Oh Zurara, that Hajj which started before 2,000 years before Adam. You want me to explain that Hajj in 40 years in the same way these individuals who existed before Adam? It's not possible to explain their wilayah in this concept within 40 or 50 minutes. But this discussion, it'll take place in 4 parts. Number 1, which verse of the Quran mentions the Imam of our time as the Wali of Imam al-Hussain, and what implications does this verse have? Number 2, what is the difference between muhabbat, mawaddat, and wilayah? Number 3, that you find what? You find that when Ahlul Bayt have the status of wilayah, that when they have wilayah, is their station something which is tahsili? Is it something which we can gain? And I'll conclude it at these 3 points instead of extending it out to 4. You find, number 1, when it comes towards examining the Quran, as I mentioned, there are various verses within the Quran where the word wali is used. And one of those famous instances is within what? It is in chapter 17, verse 33. Within this verse, it states what? It says, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ وَمَنْ قُتِلَ مَظْلُومًا فَقَدْ جَعَلْنَا لِوَلِيِّهِ سُلْطَانًا. That it says what? It says that those souls which are killed without any right, those madloom souls, know that their wali has been given authority. And then what does it say? It says, فَلَا يُسْرِفْ فِي الْقَتَلِ إِنَّهُ كَانَ مَنْصُورًا. Do not be excessive in revenge, and he is supported. Now when it comes towards the Quran, you find that once somebody has gone through the proper prerequisites, they can give the tafsir of the Quran. For example, when you have studied pre-Arabic, pre-Islamic Arabic culture, when you have studied Arabic grammar, many of our ulama, they have the right to give tafsir. But the right to ta'wil is something which only Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam have. Why? Because ta'wil, one of the differences is that tafsir, it offers an interpretation, whereas ta'wil, it can say that a verse of the Quran is about a specific instance. And the Quran says what? It says, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَعْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. And none knows the ta'wil except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and those whom are firmly grounded in knowledge. Now when you look within Bihar, you find that this ayat of the Quran, although the verses of the Quran are conceptualized, they are generalized, our Imam, our 5th Imam, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, salamullahi alayhi. Our 5th Imam, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, he suggests in a narration that the best example of this ayat is Imam al-Hussain and the revenge which will be taken by the Imam of our time. Why? Because he says within this ayat that madloom, that soul which is killed without justice, is Imam al-Hussain. That wali who has been given sultan, authority, is Imam al-Zaman. And when it says فَلَا يُسْرِفْ فِي الْقَتْلِ, it says do not kill those who are not involved within the killing of Imam al-Hussain. But now the question automatically comes towards the mind, that when the Imam, he comes and he takes the revenge for Karbala, and you know, I'm mentioning this specifically because it is Thursday night. The narrations mention that on Thursday night, Imam al-Zaman, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif, he places his hands on the Zulfiqar and he asks Allah, "Oh Allah, do I have your izn? Do I have your permission?" And Allah replies by saying that your followers, they aren't ready yet. That these nights, they are specifically attached to the Imam of our time. But you find the question comes up, is that how will he take the revenge for Karbala? Because those individuals, they've already passed away. There's 2 answers. Number 1, the concept of raja is there, is the return of the enemies of Ali Muhammad. So the Imam, he can properly take revenge. But at the second aspect, you find that our relationships, they are not built on blood or physical time. Rather, our relationships are built on love and ideology. the Imam, he will take revenge from those who have the ideology of the killers of Imam al-Hussein. Now it's up to the mu'mineen that when you look within the world that you recognize who is the one who has the ideology of the killers of Imam al-Hussein, who is using that same methodology. Because when you look and you find these are the individuals the Imam will take revenge from. When we look within the Quran, what does the Quran say? It says, "O Nuh, qala ya Nuh," that he is not your son. Why? Because his amal is not good. He does not have amal as-salih. So you find the Imam, he will bring this revenge. But when the Quran uses the word wali, that the Imam of our time is the wali of Imam al-Hussein, there has to be a connection between Imam al-Hussein and Imam al-Zaman. And what is that connection? Number one, the first connection is that when you look within the traditions of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, there are 300 traditions that mention that Imam al-Zaman is from the lineage of Imam al-Hussein. And 180 of those 300 mention are of Rasulullah, where he says, he describes the Imam of our time as from the lineage of Imam al-Hussein. From the second aspect, what do you find? The second aspect, you find that each Imam, that although all of them are Nurun Wahid, all of them are one light, that each of them, they had a special respect for Imam al-Hussein and for the 12th Imam. For example, when you look at our 8th Imam, when our 8th Imam was passing away, what did he say? He said that remove the carpets and place me upon the ground. They said, "Oh Mawla, oh our master, why are you asking to do this?" The Imam replied by saying, "For a few moments, I want to feel the pain which my grandfather Hussein felt as he laid on the plains of Karbala." But you find that the same Imam, that he had a special connection with the 12th Imam as well. You know what, you find that the Abbasid Khulafa, near the end of times, they knew that a Mahdi will come who will take avenge, who will bring justice to a world filled with oppression. So they started naming each of their children Mahdi, Mahdi, Mahdi. In the same way, you find that Al-Ma'mun, he had named his son Mahdi as well. Every time Ma'mun would call his son Mahdi, you find Imam Ali al-Rida, he would stand up. They say, "Oh, Imam Ali al-Rida, why are you standing up?" Ma'mun is calling his son Mahdi. The Imam replied by saying that I want to show there is a difference between our Mahdi and their Mahdi. Their Mahdi, he gets hit by his neighbors. Their Mahdi, he gets hit by his family members. Our Mahdi is the one whom his grandfather stands up out of respect when his name is taken. That our Mahdi is the one whose grandfather stands up out of respect when his name is taken. That who is this grandfather? That this grandfather is the one who has that famous narration of the golden chain, which most of you know, so I won't recite that. But you find that this is a special continuation. You know, I remember there was a debate between a Shia and a non-Shia which was going on. It was a famous scholar. That scholar, he would quote from Amir al-Mu'mineen. He would say, "My master Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib would say." The other person would reply by saying, "My master Amir al-Mu'mineen," he would put another companion in there, would say. He begins thinking to himself that Amir al-Mu'mineen is the title of my Mawla Ali. He's using it for somebody else. So he says, "Okay, I'll say another title." Then he said what? He said, "My master Ali Imamul Muttaqeen said." That person, he copied it again. He said, "This companion Imamul Muttaqeen said." So at that point, he begins to think to himself that I have to say something which he cannot match, which he cannot come close. So you know what he says? He says, "My master Muhammad al-Mahdi ibn Hassan al-Askari ibn Ali al-Naqi ibn Muhammad al-Jawad ibn Ali al-Rida ibn Musa al-Qadim ibn Ja'far al-Sadiq ibn Muhammad al-Baqir ibn Zayn al-Abidin ibn Imam al-Hussein ibn Ali Amir al-Mu'mineen said." Then he said to him, "I recited my chain, now you recite your chain," and tried to match that. Then you find that there's this special continuation from the Imam towards the third Imam, towards the Imam of our time, that what other connection exists? You find out the next aspect, many of the traditions, some of them mention that the Imam, the call will be made on the 23rd of Shahru Ramadan. But other traditions, for example, you find Sayyid ibn Tawus in Al-Ghaiba. There's multiple books called Al-Ghaiba. For example, Shibli al-Nu'mani has Ghaiba. But this is of Sayyid ibn Tawus. There's a narration of Imam al-Sadiq, Salamullahi alayhi. There's a narration of Imam al-Sadiq which states that on the 23rd of Dhul Hijjah, a call will be made in the sky, and on the day of Ashura, people will see the Imam at the Kaaba. That what aspect? That out of any day, the Imam could have started his movement. He will begin his movement on the day of Ashura. And there are different narrations which mention the different things which the Imam will say. But one narration mentions that when the Imam he comes in front of the Kaaba, he will hold the clock of the Kaaba and he will make 5 statements. He will say, number 1, O people of the world, know Ana Imamul Qa'im, that I am that Imam who will rise. He says, number 2, O people of the world, I am the avenger. But you know what the third line is? He says, know, O people of the world, Inna Jaddi al-Hussain qataluhu atshana. That, O people of the world, know that my grandfather Hussein was killed thirsty. Then he makes the 4th statement. O people of the world, know that when they killed him, they even took the clothes from his body. Then he says, O people of the world, know that his body, it laid there. That when you look at this, you find the Imam, he makes 5 statements. 4 out of those 5 statements are related towards Imam al-Hussein, highlighting that the axis which the movement of the Imam of our time will revolve around is that movement at Karbala. That's why when he comes, he will go towards Kufa. Imam al-Hussein was going towards Kufa. The Imam of our time, he will establish his government in Kufa, in Masjid al-Sahla, to continue that. Further than that, what you find the narrations mention, our 6th Imam says, is that the chant, the slogan of those who are with the Imam, it will be Ya Litarat al-Hussein, oh the blood of Hussein, that we will revenge the blood of